This session is brought to you by the Influence Marketing Platform. The Influence Marketing Platform is so intuitive, you'll swear it was built just for you. So go ahead and learn more about the automation software and get a demo at emarketingplatform.com.
What the panel is today is the ESP perspective of us. What do they think about us? And what do they think about the future of the industry from their insider knowledge of what people are working on, okay? They're not here to say, oh, I'm from this company and I want you to buy my software. If they do, we're going to boo them off the stage and throw tomatoes at them. They already know that.
Do we have the tomato? Did Daniel bring tomatoes earlier?
Chef Daniel probably brought some tomatoes. We can find some. And you're national, not national. I can eat your house. So, okay, so we're gonna just kick. Sorry. Got a little real there for a second. I'm gonna pull my notes. We got a lot of questions from people in this room. So they're not from them. These are people that we talked to. So I'm just gonna lob you an easy one, just to get things going. You guys ready for this? Okay. Should we buy or rent email lists? We're gonna start here. Sorry, just introduce everyone. So this is Logan.
Hello, everyone. Hello, gentlemen.
We got Zach.
Hello.
And we have Spencer.
Hey, everybody.
Hey.
Yeah.
All right, Spencer, you got the mic, which means you get to talk to us about lists and renting them and buying them.
Don't do it. It's really easy. Especially if you care about deliverability, don't do it. And I mean, if you listen to anything Matthew just said about a relationship, but depending where you are, you probably shouldn't buy relationships either. So. Maybe don't. I won't go there. But yeah, don't do it. It's terrible for deliverability. If you know folks in that space, you know people that go to MOG, you're gonna get your wrist slapped and you're not gonna get invited back to the party.
Yeah, to completely 100% agree and mirror that sentiment. Also, hopefully from an ESP perspective, hopefully there's some language in the MSA that says if we catch you doing that, you will no longer be a customer of ours. Huge red flag if that's not in there, because your ESP may be promoting that, which is also not the best way to go.
Caption eye roll. It's not. No, you don't ever want to do it. I mean, I feel like we're just preaching to the choir.
Yeah.
Really around this. You all know. We don't do that. We don't. And any ESP of note is going to not allow you to do it either because it's bad for everybody. Oh, but we do have a question.
I do have a question. How do you handle, I've still seen job postings in other organizations where people are being asked to do that as part of the role. How can you empower people to come back and explain to leadership and educate why that's a bad decision?
Yeah, no. It is a great question. I mean, I think that there are a lot of resources, starting with anybody associated with MOG who might be able to offer articles and data, and more than you can shake a stick at, if that's a phrase that we're still using. Yes, like that, just like that. And you could overwhelm them with information around why that's a bad deal, but also if there's a job posting around that that you're looking at, it's probably not the organization for you either, seeing as they might have a more flexibly moral set of values than your own.
Yeah.
So probably not a good fit.
Yeah. We heard a few times up here, when you're dealing with leadership, numbers, right? So the list is going to cost X amount. All the information is going to be terrible. You're wasting money there. The deliverability impact, all the resources you're talking about, wasted money there. Then you're going to have to pay somebody else for deliverability services to get it back, wasted money there. You can just go down the checklist. I didn't come here to do math, but I'm sure it's out there. So you can just go down the checklist and just be like, hello leadership, do you love to waste money? If so, then let's buy this list. And it should be an easy decision.
If you're kind of a smartass, I would ask your boss for their email from high school or their email from their last job, and then start using that to communicate with them and see how effective it is.
But
Thank you. See, this is going to be good. All right. I've got a list of questions, everyone. So we have your own questions. You can talk to them after. All right. No, I'm kidding. I'm not.
No.
Same questions.
I just want to make sure that we get through some questions that people have submitted. The next one is, what parts of the industries are holding us back as marketers that we're kind of set on as maybe, I don't want to bias your answer, so this is very broad, and what could we change as marketers to make it there? We're going to start with Spencer.
I think from my perspective, as marketers, our relationships with our engineering and our product teams are often holding us back. And I think about modern marketing is it's the same thing. Like if you're going and you want to buy a Tesla instead of a car, there's a whole new language that you need to learn. Like you're not talking about horsepower anymore. You're thinking about the battery. You're thinking about range, not miles per gallon. And if you're still talking, if your engineers are still like, well, we've been doing this FTP drop every week for the past 7 years, so your next ESP, you need to keep doing that. That's going to limit you. If you're thinking about lists and CSVs, you're not thinking about segmentation and automation. Those are all things that come with partners on the engineering side. Like Jorge, I think, did an awesome job this morning. It's like one guy, one person running those programs, and his great partners in the data science and engineering orgs, and he's doing some really cool stuff. But that's where the bar is with a really small team, and with those people coming together, it really starts to unlock the potential of what you can do.
Yeah, I think once again, gonna mirror that, but also, yeah, I mean that's just a great answer. There's also from the marketing side as well. Not just from like a data and I don't want to talk from an engineering perspective, but this is also how I, right? There's a little bit of that, but also organizationally from the top, we get a lot of questions about okay, we want to do this program in real time. We want to do this design. How do we do it? Who makes the content? So not only from teaming up with your IT department or your developers or BI or whatever it is, but also from one of the presentations we saw earlier when we talked about how that marketing automation stack is going to affect the whole company. So bring in the whole company. Let that decision be made. I went up to her after and I was like, anybody who's in evaluation should talk to her. I bet that's, yeah, talk to her because she's doing it correctly. So there's that, and then, that's it. I could go all day.
In terms of, I would agree with both my esteemed colleagues. And as well, I think we can also get caught up in particular tactics and missing the goals that those tactics are trying to kind of help us achieve. So we something that often occurs, I think, is on our SDR side or our BDR side, we've got folks talking to prospects, and they're trying to figure out what their needs might be, and there are very specific asks, like a specific sort of automation or a specific type of merge tags or things that they might need, and when really there might be other ways of accomplishing that goal. And so keeping an eye more on the goals, and then being able to be collaborative with your ESPs about there might be a number of other ways to solve for those issues if we don't just get very myopically focused on this one thing, because that may be the only way that we know how, and we're usually based on our previous ESPs or other relationships that we have. It's very similar to if you're in a relationship with people and you only know one way of behaving and getting what you want in your previous relationship, and so that you carry it over into the new one, and maybe it doesn't work as well, and maybe there are other ways of getting what we want. So, it's for a friend.
All right, so next one up. So there's a lot of hype on GDPR for lots of people are for a year, 2 years. You got to get ready, and then it was this cutoff date. What has been the impact that you saw from an ESP perspective on GDPR. And do you think the hype was worth it? That's the first part. And then the follow-up the second part.
So I'm going to hand this one over to start every conversation with Spencer. I mean, I think it's hard to overstress the need for what GDPR represented, which is giving people more autonomy and control over their information, and the more autonomy and control and agency that we give our subscribers, then the more empowered they feel in that relationship. And the more meaningful and engaged that relationship is going to be. Again, a few parallels to regular human relationships, right? Like you can control or you can love, you can't do both. And so I think that, in that sense, like it's hard to overstress like that's important, and there's a reason why it's moving elsewhere. And so we did see some impact from it. We saw like a small drop off in certain segments, but overall we did there was a lot of preparation that went in on our back end to try and get us ready for it, to make that data portable, to meet all of those requirements, and a lot of information trying to make sure that all of our clients were prepared for it, and I think that's entirely been worth the investment.
Some of what you said, I mean, hold on loosely, right? Obviously. I mean, I almost liken it to Castle. Like I was selling email when Castle happened, and then I used that fear to sell deals. I'm like, you need to buy on-prem because everything's going. You need the data all in one place, and aren't you super afraid? And I think a lot of that happened. Yeah, right. Yeah. People are like, I'm so scared. I need to buy that. I'm like, of course you do. This is great. And it was wrong. And so it was wrong. That was wrong of me to do. I was wrong. Everyone was wrong. And I think a lot of that happened with GDPR as well. And we have the new California laws coming out. We have all that, right? So there's a lot of fear mongering around it, which I think is an overreaction. But I also agree that the data autonomy and everything you said is very important, very good. An unforeseen, or I didn't have the foresight to see it, is that from an ESP perspective, it's allowing us to actually do more business in Europe because we're now adhering to those kind of laws. I don't know how it's affected Australia because I don't know enough about it, but I do know that we now don't have to have like a data center in Germany because we now adhere to all of those kind of things, right? So it's helping vendors internationally, and I think that once all that work is done and you're ready, we have a better story to tell. I'm gonna cut off there. I can be verbose.
Yeah, I'm happy you actually mentioned Europe because I think there is an America, like I know we're in South Carolina, but there is an America-centric perspective to this, that we have customers all over the world, and if you go talk to someone in Germany about GDPR, that is the law, it is serious, and a lot of brands here, I think, are still kind of figuring out, how much do we really need to do this? Like, how much can we get away with? And I actually think, as marketers, we should embrace GDPR because what it's really about is being sensitive to how we store data, how we use data, and it's placing a lot more value, in my opinion, on first-party data. So if this was an ad tech conference, or if your business relies a lot on ad tech and kind of building audiences and collecting data, you're going to be a little bit more concerned about the longevity of your business model. But if you have a really strong opt-in process, people are voluntarily giving you information, or they're buying things from you, you're learning a ton about that customer. And if you're storing it in a way that's responsible, then that's just going to produce better marketing, right? That's going to be better personalized emails, better triggers. So I think for all of us, we should all be using that lens. And we can look at Facebook and what's happened over the past couple of years with Cambridge Analytica. There's a lot of really bad things that can happen when you mishandle data. Even if it's aligned with the terms of service. If it's not something that really sits well with people, it's not going to be good for your brand or your company.
So there's also what's called profits dilemma, where the same thing happened like Y2K, where it's like the end is near, and because there was a lot of preparation and there wasn't like a big all lights turned off, that everyone was like, oh, Y2K was a flop, right? So we don't really necessarily see what was going on the back end of all the preparation, all the companies. But I won't stress. So that was just a tangent. Sorry, guys. So what was the impact to your business? Are you seeing the engagement actually improve because of all those bad subscribers are now off those lists?
Yeah, so I mean, from a technology perspective, like, there's just some really basic things, like with the right to deletion. If your platform doesn't have an easy way for you to delete people from it, to delete emails, to delete user profiles, you're going to be in trouble. But so there's some things just technically that we had to do. But we did see a big spike of the pre-GDPR, like, please click on this and like re-opt into our programs. And we all saw some of the horror stories of people that just totally screwed that up. So there's a big spike, and then, especially in Europe, I do think volumes have dropped a little bit. That is, anytime you send fewer emails, generally speaking, you're getting better engagement rates. That denominator is a little bit smaller, and it's more targeted, it's better. So I think that's rebounding as people have grappled with it, but yeah.
I have no idea.
Your first set.
Yeah, I don't know.
I also don't know. But I will say that the other line that we have to tread as ESPs is, of course, that while we want to make sure that the people using our platforms are empowered and have the right knowledge, that the line between that and giving any sort of legal advice, we can't do that. So ultimately, we can give the information and we can make sure people are aware. But then our customers have to make their own decisions about it, and then we try to support them in the aftermath of that, depending on how well they listened on the front end.
So you're going to keep this mic for real quick. So what's your perspective? So we saw the 7,000 plus MarTech companies on screen. What's your perspective of consolidation of email as it is right now? Campaign Monitor Group bought Emma, also bought Sell-Through. Where do you see kind of who are the big players and why are they consolidating so much? And where do you go on that? And you two have a follow-up question.
All right. So I would say that from an inside perspective, what it looks like, so first, your first question was to why are we seeing that? Okay. I think why we're seeing that is people are taking email seriously. We don't have, large players in the game, acquiring email technology and email marketing technology because they don't think that there's money in it. That's going to happen. From an inside perspective, I can really just speak from my own experience, but it means that I suddenly get to meet these other folks who are also sort of family, right? They're all trying to solve the same problems. So getting to meet the folks from Campaign Monitor, because I came from the Emma side of the business, we suddenly get to meet people who have been also trying to solve the same problems, but they do spaghetti dinners on Thursdays instead of Tuesdays and eat pizza. So it's like we're arriving in roughly the same places, but coming from slightly different ways, and we're just mainly knowledge sharing and trying to figure out how to make it easier, because each of our products are aimed at different market segments. How do we make it easier for people to transition between those and also to find the right fit for those? So instead of competing with one another, we're just trying to make sure that there's a seat at the table for everyone. So I think that's largely kind of what the experience of it is now.
When, like I said, I got into this business in 2012, and you guys saw the difference between what it looked like in 2012 to what it looked like today. And I had a really good conversation at lunch, a build versus buy conversation, right? And so that many companies can be a positive thing, especially when you talk about the consolidation of Campaign Monitor and Emma and Sell-Through. Those are three wildly different platforms. When you have 7,000 platforms that do different things, you could find one that's really tailored to your business. That is super hard to do and sift through, and everything up there looks so daunting, but with great power comes great responsibility. And now with the age of information and all of that, it's no longer I'm in the 80s with my power tie and I come in and I tell you how it is, you need to buy Oracle or whatever. Sorry. Anyway.
Still, guys, went through a little bit.
Yeah, sorry. I'm embarrassed. So You know, and like you now have as much information as you want, right? And you can ask the pointed questions and talk about your personal use cases. And if they don't fit, you can just move on because there's 7,000 other people out there. So it's not a terrible thing. It's a horribly scary thing, and there's a lot to look through, and it's a lot of work. But you're making a 5-year decision, you know, and you have to do the work ahead of time. Once again, talk with the woman who did the presentation. It was wonderful.
Yeah, I actually look at it a little bit differently. There obviously is M&A that's happening that's leading to Campaign Monitor, and if you look at all the marketing clouds are Frankenstein's products that they've acquired, but that's not new, right? This is happening in the early 2000s, and they're finally getting integrated, or so they say. But I think what's actually happening is marketers, I think no matter what size company you're at, you actually have a lot more choice. And I think, whether it's a CMO or a CEO, I love a lot of the work that McKinsey does. And they're talking about agile marketing and agile teams and really looking forward to new ways of working and new ways of forming teams. And I think it's actually easier than it's been in a long time to go take an ESP that maybe your CMO hasn't heard of and say, I think this is the future. I think we should use them. And to me, that's really exciting. I think when I look at the 7,000 companies, that's not oh my God, there's more companies than there have ever been. They all just started in the past 2 years. What happened? We fell asleep and this just happened overnight. It's actually, as marketers, we're responsible for a lot more technology in our companies. And our stacks are bigger. And this is what people have been writing about this for years too, right? It's budgets are leaving the CIO and they're going to the CMO. That's what that is. And so, on that list, there's project management software. There's all kinds of different things that aren't just ESPs, and that's what's new and exciting.
Awesome. All right, you kind of answered your own question, so thank you. What companies are doing the best retaining customers, and what can we do as marketers to replicate what they're doing to retain those customers or attract customers? Because I know that subscription lists, even though we talk about how list size is a bit of batting measure, it's still something that we care about because we always want to get new potential customers, right? So number one is what companies are doing that well, and what can we do as marketers to replicate? We're gonna start with Zach. In the middle.
Great.
Yeah.
Great. I'm really prepared.
Yeah,
Can I give you?
doing a good job of retaining customers.
Yeah.
I can speak to that.
I'm trying to think of. I'm trying to think of brands. I'm trying to think of brands that aren't our customers, so that I can, not be so biased. So I'm just going to give you an archetype of a company. The companies that.
Platonic.
Yeah, exactly. Plastics major, I can abstract anything. And I have my supporter over here too, and here. That's right, and here. To start answering your question 45 seconds into it, the kind of company that does something like this. So we saw a little bit of it earlier with G2, right? G2 is taking 4 or 5 key attributes for each of their customers, attributes that are changing all the time. The profile, like you said, essentially updates itself. You make decisions off of something that's constantly changing based on users' behaviors and users' actions, correct? Okay. So, companies that are doing that and that are constantly using what's going on, they're doing things in cadences that are not based on best practices. An email welcome series has to have 7 messages in it. That is not the right way to go about it. You have an action you want that user to take, or a series of actions that you want that user to take. And then so you base your programs around that. We've heard a lot about relationships today. We've heard a lot about hey, I want to present my best content to the customer. Great way of thinking about it. Better way, a company that builds a better relationship is what's the content my customer wants to see? Has nothing to do with what you designed or what you wrote. It does because it's got to be good. But if they don't want to see it, doesn't matter how good you made it. You don't want to send your Jedis to a planet that has nothing of import on it. You want to send your Jedis to Tatooine, you know, you want to get there, they know what's going on. Yeah, you guys know. So it's those companies that point the Jedi correctly and lets the Jedi do their work. Yes.
Exactly. So, full disclosure, this is a customer of ours, but I really love what SoundCloud's doing. And if you use SoundCloud, but even if you don't, you might have saw, like, I don't know, like 18 months ago, it was like, they didn't know if they were going to exist anymore. And they were raising money, and they were trying to get artists back involved. And music is a really hard space, and they went from this evolution from a creator platform into a more mainstream, like partner with the labels, like, you know, the same catalog that Spotify, Apple Music, Deezer, everybody has. And that really changed the foundation of who and what the company was. And they introduced advertising and all these different things, and a lot of it just didn't work. And they're in the news like, is this still going to be a company anymore? And now they've just completely changed their model, doubled down on subscriptions, and in the music space, discovery and curation are two of the most important things. So, you know, a lot of the stuff that we heard about this morning, they're just doing such a good job of helping you find music, and they have such a unique platform with user-generated content. So I think that all those things Matthew's talking about, they're doing this really great mix, and then they're bringing it into a cross-channel experience. I won't say omni-channel because I hate that phrase as well, like everybody does. But it's on mobile, it's on web, it's in email. Like Matthew said, email is part of the product. So email is a perfectly good place to learn about music, the same as on the app or on the web. So I love their marketing, I love what they're doing. I think as a business, it's just really impressive.
In terms of what helps kind of retain, so I'm professional services manager at MN Modern. So we do design and development work on one end. We do a lot of like email marketing strategy work. We've got a team of folks who help our customers with that. And so they serve as sort of these email marketing managers to some smaller, lesser degree for a whole bunch of our folks. And I mean, something that we keep trying to encourage in our customers is to to keep. And this is mirroring a lot of the things that we've heard over the course of the conference. Is it's continuing to check in with your customers to make sure that what we are sending is relevant, is of interest, not just what they were interested in 6 months ago, but what they're interested in today. Again, we find some parallels here between this and other human relationships. And so we've got a number of folks who are doing it well. I think, but I'm trying to think of the brands are escaping me at the moment. But it's the checking in. It's the continuing to make sure that you're like sending emails where you're considering their preferences and you're giving them the opportunity to express different preferences over and over again, so that you can keep tailoring that message as much as possible.
Last question for me, and then we'll probably have time for one or two questions. So, if you're ready. What technology are you looking forward to the most in email that you're working on now, or do you think it's going to change how email goes in the next 2 to 5 years?
So I spoke a little bit about this on the Litmus State of Email webinar, but the voice accessibility, voice assistance, like experiencing email purely verbally, at least in one form and fashion, is really fascinating to me. I think they've still got a long ways to go because they currently, like, they're not leveraging the same ARIA attributes and things that screen readers that for people who need them have been using for a long time. So it's like a really easy win that they've missed on right now. But when they tap into like that wealth of experience of people who've been using screen readers for a long time, and the voice assistants grow more robust, it just re-emphasizes the idea that people experience our emails in so many different ways, in so many different contexts, in so many different circumstances, and that we can create something that is accessible and inclusive and addresses all of those potentials. And so it's a like creating, so the technology that allows people to access our emails in the moment where they are is probably the most fascinating to me, and the one that I'm the most emotionally invested in.
I can't wait for like B5 AI, like 7 years from now when it's actually something that works. But what I mean by that is this: as marketers, you're looking at two things. You're looking at testing, a lot of mechanical stuff, personalization down to the one-to-one level, like a lot of things that are fueled by technology, the head. But you also have to consider things from the heart, like what's this relationship, what's this emotional connection that I'm having with my customers, which actually, the way that I see things going, is the most powerful thing you can do. You can test a billion subject lines, but if they don't like your brand, they don't care, right? Like, I'm an inventory guy in my email. I sign up for all the programs because I have to, it's my job. But like, the ones that I really want to read is from the brands that I want to hear from, not because you have a clever line. It's because when I open that email, I know there's going to be content in there that I like and that I want to read, or I know that, I was talking about how basic I am. Like Instagram and Netflix, they have me figured out. They show me stuff I want all the time. I bought off Netflix. I bought off Instagram on the plane ride here. I bought like 4 shirts because I'm easily read. But what I think AI will allow marketers to do once you get over the obsession will allow marketers to get rid of all the mechanical stuff they're doing day to day, dropping lists, making sure the data's okay, all that. Now you can trust it so that you can put as much heart in there and really connect with your clients as much as possible. So that's what I'm excited when everybody gets over the list management and all that, can really focus on what they create. Focus on making their Jedis better.
Yeah, in some ways I've kind of stepped back from expecting email to change dramatically. It's sort of been the same thing, and in some ways that's great. I don't know if anyone else feels this way, but especially my personal email for the brands I really love, I kind of find some refuge in it in some ways, because if you're on YouTube or you're on any other form of media, it's designed to be addictive. And does anyone rock climb or ski here by any chance? So if you know the company Black Diamond, they make gear for climbing, for skiing, mountaineering. I love their emails. And you've probably heard like Free Solo and Don Wall, like some of these movies. They've tapped into this community of people that's super passionate. And so when I see one of their emails, I know they're going to be sharing something about that community. Someone who's just climbed something that's never been done before. They do analysis on the safety of their gear, how to assess that, things you can go take away. And so I know I can go into my inbox, I can read that, and that I get that nugget of information, I can sort of walk away from it. It's not that experience where it's like, oh yeah, just one more minute, and then watch this 10-second ad, and then one more thing. And so for me, I'm just really excited to have more and more really well done emails. And I think the inbox is largely going to stay the same. There's the stuff that Google's working on, AMP's really cool, some changes in promotions tab. But I think largely we're going to have that same experience. And as the internet has more and more things like Facebook and YouTube and every kind of media consumption that are designed to be addictive, like where can we find that refuge? And that's sort of on all of us to write really good emails and to really think about, are we sending the right thing to the right person?
Makes sense. All right. Any burning questions that we have? Okay, far left. Get on ready, guys.
Say, what is the most frustrating consistent question?
All right, so the question is, what's the most frustrating request you get from clients?
I think customers who have, the woman in the front here asked about how to talk to your boss about not buying lists. I think even if you take list purchasing out of it, I think a lot of our bosses, a lot of CMOs, VPs of marketing, still don't understand that list size isn't the most important metric. And especially if you're in retail, e-com, you get to the holidays, Black Friday, they just want to know what's the audience. And that's really pretty terrible, because for all of us as consumers, we get bad emails, and then it's bad for deliverability. So I think people who don't understand that who you send to, how you send to them really matters. I think especially there's, a new breed of marketers that you can go out, you can send a billion push notifications, you can just go buy a bunch of ads and have it place all over the place, and it kind of doesn't have consequences. Sending bad emails does have consequences, and we all need to be respectful of that. I think that it's still slow to seep into some execs' minds.
You don't have to add anything exactly. You're very
Oh, my bad.
You do, or you can add.
Oh. Are we okay?
Wait,
This is my first panel. I'm very confused. Do I say something? I don't know.
You're good.
Okay. Yeah.
I thought you were just looking for me for approval, so I was like, you can or you can't.
Okay.
Yeah, sort of a father figure.
Yeah. Always, for as long as I've known you. To go along with that, I think that speaks to a bigger issue, which is like a mindset issue, right? A lot of companies are still in the how much revenue are we going to generate on this send kind of mindset. And it's kind of our fault as ESPs because a lot of us charge based on the volume that you send and things like that. So it's like, well, how are we going to justify the ROI? I have X amount of credits and this and that, blah, blah, blah. Like we have to make money off of this, right? So go back to relationships. When you're trying to build a relationship with somebody, it's not to get their money. Maybe they'll give you money. That'd be awesome. You're a good friend with somebody, can I get $20? They just say yes, because they know they'll get it back. They'll get something else from you, right? That's what you're trying to create. You're not trying to create how much money am I going to get from this email. So it speaks to the same kind of thing, like those kind of questions, best practice, like, all that stuff's frustrating.
Yeah, I think piggybacking on both of my esteemed colleagues, it's a very complicated piggyback situation, but we're working it out. We have, so most of the time, everyone just visualizing. Yeah, take a moment, really let me thank you. In a very obviously, in a very similar way. So most of the time when my team is working with people, we're working with you all, right? We're working with you all. We don't need to sell you all on these things. It's trying to help provide the people that we're working with the arguments and the data that they need in order to make that argument up the line. I've had multiple conversations with fantastic email marketing managers or email marketers that are clients of ours that are trying to convince their boss about that very list size issue, right? And it's because they built an entire model of business on selling ad space, on list size. And so it's, frustrating in some ways. It just makes me feel sad on the inside a little bit. And also, a lot of empathy because we're on your side of this. And we want you all to be successful, and we see the path, and you see the path. So then it's about finding the right words and the right phrasing and the right framing, the right arguments in order to make that argument up the line. And it's just an industry mindset change, right? And to continue to differentiate email marketing as functionally and fundamentally about building relationships.
Awesome. Any other burning questions? So we have like 5 minutes.
Do you guys just mind telling us where you work?
I kind of said that so that you guys would think we're trying to sell you.
Oh, yeah.
Go ahead.
It's fun. So I work for CM Group, which is the family of brands that's like Delibra, Campaign Monitor, Emma, Live Clicker, Sail Through. That's all so far. But I came from the Emma side of the business, so I've been there about 8 years, and then when we married into the CM family, I've been working. My team works primarily with Emma and Campaign Monitor clients.
I work at Iterable. I've been there for about 2.5 years now. So, marketing automation platform, all that. It's all good. If you have any questions about it, coach me.
I work at Braze. Been there about 8 years.
Thanks for the play.
Awesome. All right, so